The skies tore and the deluge that followed lasted for 5 days and 18 hours. Dan knew because he had just started counting as they do at Jellicle's farm across the meadow. He was just a wee curious rabbit then, who had found a spot to hide behind a giant apple tree. 2 farmers were standing about 10 feet apart. One threw a giant squash across to the other. "One, the other replied back. 2. A butternut squash whizzed past little Dan. Everything north of his torso swung right. 2, 3. Dan's neck and ears whipped left. 3, the echo again. In the next couple of days, Dan learnt how to count squash, shiny coins, paper bits, and the numbers on a screen on the wall of the farm shed. They even used numbers to determine if the day was hot or cold. It did not matter to Dan. If it was too hot, he slept. If it got too cold, he slipped into the shadows. But one day, 5 days and 18 hours after the skies tore and the rain poured down, it suddenly stopped. Dan stepped out and hopped across the meadow to land in his favourite carrot patch at the farm. A rabbit cannot dine on leaves alone. As he negotiated his way through the frilly pathway, he almost fell over when he caught sight of something awful. Being a smart rabbit, he crouched and moved on his belly to hide under a cabbage leaf heavy with rainwater. In front of him was a sight that scared him and fascinated him at the same time. A little olive-grey hillock that was actually shorter than Dan himself was moving slightly as though it was rocking itself. The motion caused a terrible rumbling sound. Dan locked his eyebrows. It cannot be a pebble. Of that he was sure, for rocks and pebbles were usually small and smooth. This thing in front of him looked so small as it should if we're far away. What a mystery! And that grating sound. It moved again. To his surprise, Dan found that it rested on stout hind legs with a rough, bumpy backside. What a strange creature! So dry and rough its skin looks! Dan poked it with a stick. Immediately a milky liquid erupted from its bumpy, dry backside. "Who is there?" The creature did a roundabout turn and thundered. Dan pulled down the cabbage leaf, but only managed to empty all the rainwater that had collected on it. Oh, what a sorry sight it was. Dan Rabbit was drenched from eartip to his toes. He had been caught spying, and now he might have to face the wrath of this rumbling, strange creature. Dan looked around furitively for a quick exit. "What a strange creature you are." Dan looked around. "Who? Me?" "Yes, you. Have you been hiding behind the leaf all along?" Dan considered the creature suspiciously. It was small, yes, but his keen sense of smell did not trust the milky ooze on his back. He scratched behind his ear. "He does seem friendly, and hasn't started to chase him yet." "I am Dan Rabbit, and I live yonder across the meadow with my friends Bao Bao, May, and Shih. I came here for my lunch. We always come here," he added to make sure that the creature knew that this was their territory first. The creature broke into a smile. It was like a perfectly symmetrical gash across its warty face. He had the most curious-looking eyes. "Croakley, Calvert. I just moved here from the creek." "I see." Dan was still wondering if he should extend his paw. "Oh yes, I hope you don't mind me sharing this space. I was born in the creek, and after we grow older, we move to the land, my siblings and I. I have chosen this patch. I won't be much of a bother, I promise. I like to ramble along by night. We toads are nocturnal." "Toads?" "We are toads. We are born in the water. And then, when we are ready, we come to land, you see. There is a whole knob of young toads by the creek. You want to say hello?" "Sure." Dan had lost some of his fear. He circled the Calvert. Just as he was about to make a full perambulation, he was hit in the eyes by something sharp and white. "Ow!" he yelped. When he opened his eyes, he could only squint. What hurt his eyes was actually a bright shaft of light reflecting from Calvert's side. "What? What is that coming from you?" "What? What?" Calvert shuffled around, looking behind, ahead, above and below him. "Oh, this!" Calvert held a tiny, shiny shield which was reflecting the sun's rays. "This is a mirror. My mother made it for me from an old broken spoon she found by the creek. She washed it and wiped it and polished it until it shone so brightly that it can reflect anything around it." Why? Dan settled on his hind legs upon a mossy stone, looking at the spoon mirror suspiciously. "Well, you see, I am the most handsome of her clutch of tadpoles. We are 7, but I have the most warts. You see?" Calvert pirouetted on his delicate webbed feet just to show his new friend all of his warts. But it only made Dan afraid that the creature might bend or snap or fall on its face. "I see." Dan chewed on a blade of grass which still had some raindrops on it. "You see, warts make one so pretty. Oh, so pretty." Dan couldn't see that. He himself was fluffy and soft with long floppy ears and marble-like eyes. He peered into the spoon mirror and took a look at himself. All the rabbits and bunnies in the meadow knew that May was the prettiest of them all, because she wouldn't have it otherwise. But his mother had told him that he was actually more beautiful than May, but that it has to be a secret. Dan looked at the preening toad with his warts and his pebbly eyes, and the bulging throat with his stubby webbed feet. He was so unlike him, and yet Carl's mother had declared him the most beautiful of all her tadpoles. How odd. "Here, come take a look at me from this side." Calvert invited Dan to stand by him. Together the toad and the rabbit gazed at each other's reflections, each wondering about what defines beauty. Dan understood at that moment, for it came to him like a flash of light. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and for a mother, every child is the most beautiful of all. As for Calvert Croakley, we don't know if he thought Dan was beautiful, but he was happy to share his spoon mirror with him, and from that day on, they remained fast friends, exploring each other's territory at Jellicley's farm, the creek beyond, and the meadow.